either been attacked by it and paid a price, or they've been enforcing it, you know? So I'm just going to read you some court cases. A statute is not law. That's Forney versus First National Bank of Shreveport. That was a Louisiana case. A code is not law. That's R.E. Self versus Ray. A concurrent or joint resolution of the legislature is not law. That's Koenig versus Flynn, Ward versus State, State ex rel, Todd versus Yell. All say that same thing. The word statute in Black's Law, the written will of the legislature, solemnly expressed according to the forms prescribed in the Constitution and Act of the legislature. And if it doesn't meet the qualifications of the Constitution, which most don't, it's null and void. Okay? U.S. Supreme Court decision. I love this case, Self versus Ray. I think it's one of the greatest cases we've ever had. It happens to say the common law is the real law, the supreme law of the land. The code, rules, regulations, policies, and statutes are not law. And they put the words "are not law" in quotations. Another U.S. Supreme Court case. This was actually Rodriguez versus Ray Donovan. Ray Donovan was head of the U.S. Department of Labor. All codes, rules, and regulations are for government authorities only, and not for human creators in accordance with God's laws. All codes, rules, and regulations are unconstitutional and are lacking in due process. Those words are incredibly important. Lacking in due process. One of the things I've witnessed over the years, and more so since I've been in Johnson County, Texas, is that there is no one that receives due process in our justice system. No one. People don't know the difference between a jury trial and a trial by jury. And there's a big difference. Let me explain to you what it is, real simply. A trial by jury is where you have 12 people who are your peers. The definition of peers is somebody from your own neighborhood who knows you and knows your situation in life. Only then can a man be freely judged. Only then can a man be freely judged. He has to be judged by his peers, people who know him and know his situation in life. Because life situations determine what is the greater crime. Young father raising 4 young children who's been off work, goes into a grocery store and steals food for his children and leaves. And he gets caught. And the police come over and arrest him, and he gets tried by a jury of his peers, and that's all his neighbors, and his neighbors know what he's going through in that part of his life. Now, situations change. Life may get better for him, right? What is the greater crime? Not to feed the children? Or insured groceries? Let me tell you something, that makes a difference, a big difference. A jury trial is where a jury makes a decision, and it's a jury usually that's gone through voir dire jury selection, where they absolutely make sure that no one knows that person, right? There are people usually from outside the area, but still in the county, but outside the influence of that individual being tried. And then they make a decision, and the judge could still override the jury's decision. They're more like a consultation group. And in today's state administrative courts, under magistrate judges, that's the only jury trial you get. You can have a jury of one's peers, as our Constitution requires. And that's a bad, bad thing. And it's something that has eroded our Republican form of government dramatically. Okay. Now, in saying that, how do we hold them accountable? One of the biggest ways, and again, I'm going to tell you this, if you're going to hold public servants accountable, local public servants, do you think you can hold them accountable in their community? Absolutely not. Never. If they go to a local county court, they will never be held accountable. And unfortunately, a lot of people call that the good old boys network. The fact that most of them are Masons. The fact that they protect their own. They huddle together. They go to dinners, they go to lunches, they go to barbecues with each other. And they
Message from Mark McAllister. Happy Father's Day.
And you cannot get a fair trial against any public servant in that community. This is why
Thanks! Exclamation point.
The federal
And
courts
to you,
are
Papa
my
Bear.
playground.
Period. Smiley face.
State courts, every state statute in every state will tell you that the only remedy in a state court is a tort claim. That means you got to sue them monetarily. And even that is hard to win in that local area. Okay, you better off going to a little bit higher state court outside of the local area. Now, if your local area is a city like that is a capital, like Austin or Salem, Oregon, or that's a capital city of its state, you're not going to get a fair trial even at the state Supreme Court to try and hold people in that community accountable. That means you have to go to federal court. In federal court, you always want to sue first under Title 42. You want to sue civilly. Okay? When you sue civilly, and I said this the other day, but when you sue civilly, you get full discovery. You get to discover facts. If you sue criminally, they don't have to answer. They can keep their mouth shut. They don't have to give you anything. So never go criminally, even after a criminal who's working in your county. You know he's a criminal. You can prove it. Don't do it. Go civil first, discover all the evidence, and then right at the end of the trial, you say, Your Honor, I think we need to turn this into a criminal charge and give it to the investigators for prosecution. Can I have a criminal referral? And the minute you do that, you can bring charges criminally. I'm going to tell you one of the biggest crimes that is not often prosecuted that needs to be more than any other. And that is 18 USC 1593A. 1593A. Now you need to study between 1581 and 1595 because they all apply. They all apply. It's those who have benefited financially from peonage, slavery, and trafficking in persons. Trafficking in persons. Understand, these courts are bringing you into court as a person. These judges, these prosecutors, these district attorneys, there is the two biggest criminals, in my opinion, in any county is the treasurer who commingles funds. I'll tell you why I say that. If you're a man who owns several businesses, several corporations, and you commingle funds amongst your corporations, what happens? The IRS and usually the U.S. Marshals come with them, and they arrest you for commingling funds. The average county treasurer commingles funds amongst 240 private for-profit corporations acting and pretending to be government under the color of law, right down to the dog catcher. But if we did that, we'd be behind bars in a federal penitentiary for a long time. You see what I mean? One of the biggest criminals is the county treasurers. Oh yeah, yeah, of course they do. The second biggest criminal, and in my opinion, you can look at crime a couple of different ways. Let's just say somebody is a fraud and a thief, and that's a pretty bad crime, right? But what if they're actually a murderer, somebody who takes lives and steals children, kidnaps children? Who's the bigger criminal? They're both really bad felonies, right? So I look at the county treasurer in one category and the district attorney's office in another. There is no bigger criminal in the United States than the district attorney and his office and the people that work for him. None. They murder people, they destroy families, they kidnap children, they destroy lives. They put people in prison that don't belong there. Every law school has done a study, every one of them, Cornell, Stanford, Harvard, Georgetown, they've all done studies on how many prisoners are in prison, in our prison system, that there is no victim. They're there for a victimless crime. Look at my wife. What did she do? What crime did she commit? Did she even show intent to commit a crime? Actually, she showed her intent not to. But the attorney she had hired back in 2015, long before I met her, he never argued that fact. And it would have been a simple thing, and her charges would have been dropped, and her life wouldn't have been destroyed, and her kids wouldn't have been taken, hundreds of thousands of dollars wouldn't have been spent, she wouldn't have lost another husband, which by the way was lucky for me, but it destroyed her life. What would have been a 5-year sentence back then if she was guilty of a crime, they've punished her for 8 years, and now they're trying to punish her for another 5. Do you understand? That's 13 years of punishment for a 5-year sentence. And they just continue to do it. How many times does she have to pay a price? I think 8 years of losing her kids was enough. Yeah, way more. way more than enough. You see, the punishment doesn't fit the crime. First of all, there was none. And all these law schools have done studies that 65% of the people on average
back
don't belong
doing
in prison.
David Straight's seminar via
Yet they're there.
on my Chromebook.
And
period.
a lot of them
That's
are
the only
just
place where I have
forgot
Facebook.
about.
Period.
Look at Plain Prison in Texas.
Can you please
Closed
send
and
me-
condemned 6
text me
years ago.
the
There's
Facebook
2,000
link
women behind the fence.
that you sent me last night with the
Those
clips
women
of
have
the
just been forgotten about.
military
If they don't
vehicles
have a
going into
family
various
member
cities? Period.
that is
Thanks.
in
Period.
somebody's office or in somebody's face every
I want to
single
post
day
it on the chat section of David's
for
seminar.
10 months, that's a real life example. Then a prisoner doesn't even get moved out of there. Well, exactly right. If we had people charging criminals they should be, we'd have law enforcement at the county courthouse arresting judges and district attorneys. They're the ones that belong there. And I hate to say it, but they are. Because the sheer number of crimes is ridiculous. These guys, even a lot of police officers, unknowingly commit many, many felonies just trying to get somebody on a traffic ticket misdemeanor. But they don't know it. It's not their fault. They were never taught. In fact, they were taught just the opposite. They were taught to follow orders. See, I was a Deschutes County Sheriff's deputy for a couple of years. I thought I could change it from the inside. In fact, when my sheriff, because he was a friend of mine long before I was a deputy, he's the one that talked me into it, swore me in, made me go through all the damn training. Driving the skid cars were kind of fun, but over at the fairgrounds. But no, they've created a lot. What she asked me, guys, and for the camera, is will the new financial system disrupt the bond process? My answer to that is absolutely not. The laws have been created for that system. And by the way, it'd be a good system if it wasn't abused. Okay? But the laws have been created for that system. The only thing that's going to change in the new financial system is the currency that's paid on the bond. You okay? Okay. So, the bond is nothing more than a piece of paper. What backs that paper, whether it's fiat currency or real dollars, doesn't change the paper. What is found? Oh, God. I'll repeat it. Hold on. Give me a minute. Compose myself here. Even a lot of Masons don't know this, but I have been in so many tunnels under the ground in cities all across America. And there are tunnel systems that are all connected that travel from one end of the country quarter to the other. We used to have tunnels that go from Spokane, Washington into Coeur d'Alene, go all the way to Minnesota, and go all the way up into Canada, underground. There's a tremendous amount of them. Baltimore is a good example. In Baltimore, you can draw a star, and there's a police station, a bank, a mortuary, a Mason Hall, and City Hall, all connected them. Along the route, there's other connections. of different buildings. Little towns like Cleburne, Texas, there's a Mason Hall, there's the Liberty Hotel, and there's the old courthouse, all connected.
Underground.
On and on and on, everywhere you go. Just about any city in America. Now, Florida's got a little harder time with that. Okay, it's too damn wet, the ground collapses, it's all sand. You can't do it in Michigan either very well because it's all sand and it doesn't exist. You get it in the West and you dig down a little bit and you're hitting solid rock and it's really easy to make and manufacture. I can show you entire lava tubes. Do you guys know what a lava tube is? Okay, in the West, in Oregon and Eastern Oregon especially,
Message
I
from
could walk you
CFLG.
underground in a lava tube that's taller than this ceiling, great big around, nice flat sandy dirt floor, and we can walk in for a half a mile, and we will come to a big room with stadium bleachers. And by the way, the Masonic emblem is hanging up on the wall at the stadium bleachers. And for more than 100 years, the Masonic Lodge has held things in that lava tube. Lots of meetings in that lava tube. And that lava tube extends and goes on for miles. And we've walked it. And we've walked it with flashlights. And one day I'm walking it with flashlights. I had been in there about an hour and 40 minutes walking at a fairly fast pace with the flashlight. How far can you walk in an hour and 40 minutes at a fairly fast pace?
6 miles.
4 or 5 miles. And I came to a stairway. And I look up the stairway and there's a door. I go, wonder where this door leads. So I climb the stairs. The door's solid. It's solid steel. It's locked real well. So I got out my cell phone and I had barely a signal. So I took a GPS coordinates of it. I walked out, got in my truck. I actually drove quite a few miles because the road didn't go straight to it. I had to go quite a ways around. And I got to a place where I was very close to that GPS coordinates.
School.
And I looked up and it's a county courthouse.
Oh.
And I looked over and right across the street's the Mason Lodge in Burns, Oregon. Okay, that answer that? Baltimore was an interesting thing. I should put this on camera, so I'll talk later. All right. Whoever knowingly benefits financially or by receiving anything of value from participating in a venture which has engaged in any act in violation of Section 1581A, 1592, or 1595A, knowingly or in reckless disregard of the facts that the venture has engaged in such violation shall be fined under this title or imprisoned in the same manner as the completed violation of those acts. So you have to go back to those statutes to see what those acts are and what the penalties are. And the penalty is a fine up to $1 million and up to life in prison. Or death. Benefited financially from peonage, slavery, and trafficking in persons. Every one of them. And every DA's office and every prosecutor. Who else? Every court clerk, the county itself, anybody involved in the RICO Act, in the cause of action, right down to the police officer who made the arrest in the first place. It's all of them. See, one of the funnest things for me to do, and I've done it many times in a courtroom, and I suggest you guys invest in a couple of reams of good quality paper, and you download the PDF file of the Federal Prosecutor's Guide to RICO. You can find it online. Just run a search. Federal Prosecutor's Guide to RICO. RICO is racketeering. Okay? That's mafia. And download the Federal Prosecutor's Guide to RICO. Print it off single-sided, and it's going to take 600 pages of paper, or just a little over. And take it down to Staples or Office Max or wherever your printer shop is and have them drill through it. Put some nice long zip ties through it, through the holes, so that you can just put your arm through it and walk into a courtroom with it. It makes a statement. This is a manual that teaches federal prosecutors how to prosecute public servants, including judges and district attorneys, for racketeering. And you want to strike fear into their hearts? Just wear that in. All right. 18 U.S.C. 1594, the general provisions. This all goes to all those U.S. codes in Title 18 from 1581 to 1595. Whoever attempts to violate those sections shall be punishable in the same manner as a completed violation of that, and whoever conspires with another to violate those sections shall be punished in the same manner as a completed violation of that section, and whoever conspires with another to violate section 1591 shall be fined under this title $1 million, in prison for any term of years or life or both. Okay. Well, that might just be why the military's in every city in America right now. Just about. Watch what happens. This year is going to be beautiful. Yeah. In most counties in California, the sheriff is the coroner. In fact, if you go to Placerville, California, believe me, I've done a lot of work in California in child trafficking. And if you go to Placer County, and Marcella can definitely vouch for this, the sheriff's hall, the coroner, and the Mason hall is all in the same building. And it says Mason's coroner, sheriff, right on the outside of the building, does it not? Yeah. Very, very interesting. And the tunnels underneath the ground, where do they go? Right to the county courthouse, right to the judge's office, right across the street to her judge. She's telling me to shut up. On and on and on. You understand? I got a lot of personal experience with this crowd. All right. Let's move on a little bit. U.S. versus Long. And informed jury found Mr. Long not guilty of willful failure to file a tax return. I'm going to pick on the IRS a little bit this morning. It's such an easy thing to do. In Donnie Williams versus Commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service, the Supreme Court said a note. What is a dollar? A note, a debenture, right? Doesn't matter which one you pull out of there. It's a note, a debenture, a debt. It's not money. It's a debt. A note, even when and payable on demand and fully secured, is still merely just a promise to pay. Since Federal Reserve notes are not secured and payable on demand, according to the law, they are only a promise to pay and not payment. And the citation for that is 429 U.S. 569. 429 U.S. 569 L ED 2D 4897 SCT, that means Supreme Court 850. It's a Supreme Court of the United States case. I will, because I knew you were going to need it. Not many people can write that fast. All right, it's U.S. versus Long. Actually, when I went to the Supreme Court, it was Don E. William versus Commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service. Okay? Started out as U.S. versus Long. 429 U.S. 569 L period ED 2D 48 comma 97 S CT 850. A debt is not paid by the giving of a note. A debt is not paid by the giving of a note. You cannot pay off a debt with this. Do you understand what I just said? Think about that in depth. You cannot pay off a debt with a note. Nolan County versus Maryland Casualty Company. A note is only a promise to pay and not payment. That's Fidelity Savings Bank versus Grimes. A check payable in notes is an altered instrument and is void. Isn't that cool? You guys have all been snowed your whole dang life. It's very aggravating. And unless you study law and you read a lot of case law until your eyes bleed and then you wake up, rub them off, and you read again, you're never going to cover enough information to learn this stuff. This is what it took for me to put this together over 35 years. I just read until I could hardly see anymore. Your check is void. Your voided payment. You've never paid off the note, the promissory note. This is why they keep it and keep trading on it forever. See, there's books you can read like Modern Money Mechanics, which was put out by the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, that tell you how money works in this country, and most people can't read that book. I'm telling you, you've got to study that book. You can't just read it and get out of it because of how complicated they wrote it. Okay? It's a difficult book to read. I had to read it several times, and one of my degrees is a master's degree in economics. Okay? And I had a hard time reading that book. So I understand how hard it is for the average person to read. It's very difficult. Go ahead. It's called Modern Money Mechanics, and it's written by the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago. Section 411 of Title 12. Somebody like to pull that up on their phone? Title 12, Section 411. Pull it up on your phone so I can read the whole thing, because what I've got here on this paper is just an excerpt. Actually, I've got it in the book somewhere, too. Yeah, you got it? Thanks. All right, brother. Oh, okay. So, Title 12 12 USC Section 411, issuance to reserve banks, nature of obligation and redemption. This is talking about the Federal Reserve note. Federal Reserve notes are to be issued at the direction of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System for the purpose of making advances to Federal Reserve banks through the Federal Reserve agents, as hereinafter set forth, and for no other purpose is authorized. And for no other purpose is authorized. The said note shall be obligations of the United States, and shall be receivable by all national and member banks and Federal Reserve banks, and for all taxes, customs, and public dues. Taxes, customs, and public dues. They shall be redeemed in lawful money on demand at the Treasury Department of the United States, in the City of Washington, in the District of Columbia, or at any Federal Reserve bank. It doesn't say it can be used for groceries, or going to the movies, or eating pizza, or spending it at a restaurant. It says it shall be used between member banks, and no other purposes are authorized for the use of taxes, customs, and dues. That's it. And nothing else. But the reason you can put it on your checks, and if you get a check, you can, right at the top, you can put Title 12, 411, sign your name to it. When you make a deposit, they're supposed to convert it into real money with that title. See? They don't anymore. They haven't since the 80s. But you used to be able to take this into a bank and get $100 in silver, which is 100 pieces of silver. This one piece I got in my pocket right now is worth $35. If I could take this in and get 100 pieces that is now worth today $35, I'd be in pretty good shape, right? I'd be there instead of here. So, all right, thank you. Appreciate you looking that up. Yes. No. Look up in the code. It is 31 point so many grains of silver, which is equal to one of our pre-1964 minted silver dollars. Okay, go ahead. Absolutely. Or Title 12, Section 411. Here, I'm going to have you repeat it.
One of my friends that's really high up in the bank said where they have
Is that coming through, Rob?
where they have the dollar sign,
Okay.
and they say you just see the one bar that's on any of your computers, you're supposed to go over that with a 2-bar real dollar sign for any of you that are old enough to remember what that looks like, right? And then on the back where it says to sign it, you're supposed to put deposit to your name or your business in care of whatever bank it is. Because that turns it into real money.
That's right. Or you can write
Or
Title 12 USC
section.
411.
Thank you.
I used to have back when I used checks. I haven't used checks in 20 years. But back when I used checks, I would have these check printing companies put on the memo line, Title 12 USC section 411, right on the memo line. Have them printed it right on there. Yeah. Okay. Norton versus Shelby County. This is an old United States Supreme Court case that has been upheld more than 900 times since 1886. Okay? An unconstitutional act is not a law. It confers no rights. It imposes no duties. It affords no protection. It creates no office. It is in legal contemplation as inoperative as though it had never been passed. We've got almost 1 billion codes, rules, ordinances, and statutes that are not law, that are voided in this nation right now. State of Idaho recognized this 3 years ago, and they threw out all of the rules, codes, statutes, and ordinances and all the regulatory manuals and started over. And except for Ada County, Idaho's a pretty damn good state to live in. All we got to do is take Ada County out of there, because they're a bunch of criminals. I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. I've seen Ada County destroy more good people. It's ridiculous. Federal Reserve notes. Again, those dollars you have in your wallet are not taxable income. They're not. How do you tax a debt? You don't make any income. Do you guys even know where the 1040 came from? Lincoln, the 1040 bonds. You guys watch my videos. The 1040 bonds. Abe Lincoln got up in front of the media and he announced the 1040 bonds to Americans, please support the war effort. I want you to consider it as a gift because the government is broke and you may never get paid on those bonds. But please invest. We need the money to fund the war effort. And Americans stepped up to the plate and funded the 1040 bonds far more than they ever thought they would. They bought tens of thousands of them. And no one ever got paid on them. No American got his investment back. And Lincoln told them they probably wouldn't. At least he offered a little bit of fair and honest disclosure. But the 1040s never quit. And you sign it, you fill it out, and you sign it under the pains and penalties of perjury by voluntary compliance. You got to volunteer for that shit. Stop consenting. President Trump said, stop funding the cabal. What do you think he meant? Go back to the origin of everything. That's something I've always done, that I've been good at. Where'd the IRS come from? The Internal Revenue Service. Where'd they come from? They came out of the alcohol, tobacco, firearms, which is now ATFE, because they added explosives. That's where IRS came from. Where did that come from? It was a registered corporation out of Puerto Rico. The IRS has never been part of the United States government, ever. In fact, it does nothing but fund the crown. It's their third-party debt collector. Not $1 that goes to the IRS in a 1040 funds the U.S. government. That's right. You want to shut them down, cut off the funding. The only taxes we're supposed to pay by law, and I'm happy to pay them, because we're supposed to pay them to support those 19 essential governmental services we contracted for. Okay, let's use a dumb example, because that's all I can come up with. If you walk into a hamburger store, and there's 19 hamburgers listed there, but there's about 18,000 different things on the menu, and you only contracted to buy these, and they handed you a whole bunch of the others, and then they pulled out their gun and they forced you at gunpoint to pay for everything, how would you feel? That's what they do. That's exactly what they do. You guys have paid for Obama phones for people in Chicago's ghetto. Sure. Absolutely. All right, again, go back to the IRS. What are they? What do they do? I got a letter right here that's going to answer that question. It's coming next, as soon as I'm done with this one. Failure to file is not a crime. Now, how I'm proving this is I'm using a Supreme Court case transcript between Judge Rehnquist and a U.S. Attorney, Mr. Jones. Okay? In the oral arguments at the U.S. Supreme Court for United States versus Kraft, the following dialogue between Chief Justice Rehnquist and U.S. Attorney Kent Jones took place regarding the criminality of failure to file a tax return, an income tax return. Judge Rehnquist, talking to Mr. Jones, okay? What about criminal procedures? Are there any criminal procedures for this? Mr. Jones says, Rehnquist says, failure. Continued failure to file. This guy's a repeated offender, right? He doesn't file. Continued failure to file. Mr. Jones says, well, of course, if you file a return, then you're not exposing yourself to any criminal obligations. And if you don't file a return, it would be, I'm not familiar with a statute that makes that a crime. I'm not an expert on criminal tax matters, but it's my impression that that would not be in itself a crime. Somebody tripping over there? Mr. Rehnquist says, we better not let that word get out. I thought it was a crime, but I'm going to go check. And he leaves the room. He comes back in and, Mr. Jones says, all right, then go ahead and check, and I'll stand. In other words, he's not going to put any information in the case, and I'll stand. They take a break, they come back, and Judge Rehnquist says, we'll just keep it among ourselves. That was 1983, I believe. right in there, 83, 85, somewhere in there. Kraft made a heck of a name for himself. He was a Alabama attorney, and he started his case, I think it was in Ohio, and then eventually that case made its way to the Supreme Court, and Mr. Kraft won against the Internal Revenue Service. Oh, the IRS, Title 15 is their Achilles heel, by the way. All right? It's an easy way to kill off the IRS is using Title 15 of the United States Code. Also, under abusive practices, in Chapter 41, Subchapter V, Section 1692 is another way to help kill off the IRS. We destroy the IRS. I mean, my office, we have Leland, I helped him with the IRS. The IRS put him in prison for 5 years in a federal penitentiary. We absolutely destroyed the IRS. Yeah. Right. Right. Why do people put their wages down on income? See, the definitions are different between wages and income anyway. Wages are earned by the sweat of one's brow for labor. Every man is a maximum law, and I love to throw this maximum into an IRS case. A maximum law is every man is worthy of his hire, and his wages are untaxable right from the get-go. They just added that one little word in very fine print right under question number 1 on the 1040, where it says how much income and wages did you earn? That's how they did it, one word. And they got you to put everything you make down there. Yeah.
What paperwork is needed to claim my
That's right. That's right. In 1991 was the first time I got sued by the IRS. And I read 73 books, law books, this thick on the Internal Revenue Service tax code. There were 73 at that time. You know how many there is now? There's actually a little over 100. But there were 73 books at that time. And I read them all. I read them all in the period of 2 months. All right. You again. Go ahead. Quick. I've known Ken Barbie for a while. I helped him with the IRS portion of that case. Yes. Yeah. We're not going to talk about that right now. Okay, yeah, you're right. I got halfway done. Thank you for reminding me. Phew. All right. The definition between wages and income. Wages is money earned from the sweat of one's brow. Income is money earned on investments made from wages already earned. So in other words, you earn your wages, you take your wages, you invest it, you make a little bit of profit, that's your income. That little bit of profit, which is a lot less than most people report on their 1040. And what you really should do, if you really want to screw with them, just turn all of your, your accountant would put as a positive number, make it a negative number, and they get really freaked out. I had fun one year with that. Because it's a debt note. You got it. Okay, you get anybody else laughing? So you actually got what I said? All right. I'm going to read you a little letter. This letter is beautiful. It was done as a result of a FOIA request with the Secretary of State of the state of Texas. Oh, it's beautiful. It's on the state of Texas letterhead with their seal, her signature, the whole works. It says, Office of the Secretary of State of the state of Texas, Ruth R. Hughes, Secretary of State. This is a certificate of fact that she responded with on that FOIA request. It says, he put his glasses right there for me. Thank you. Yeah, you saw the size of the type? Yeah, me too. It scared the heck out of me. I don't know why they don't do this in like 14 point. It's like 8. The undersigned, as Secretary of the State of Texas, hereby certifies that a diligent search of the records of this office was performed on the business name of the Internal Revenue Service. It is further certified that the search revealed the following facts. There is no record of a domestic corporation, professional association, a limited partnership, a limited liability partnership, or a limited liability company by the name searched Internal Revenue Service. There is no record of a foreign corporation, professional association, a limited partnership, limited liability partnership, limited liability company, business trust, real estate investment trust, or any other foreign filing entity with a registration to transact business by the name searched Internal Revenue Service. There is no record of an out-of-state financial institution registration by the name searched. There is no record of an assumed name certificate on file by the name searched Internal Revenue Service. There is no record to indicate that a designation of agent for service of process is even on file for a Texas financial institution, unincorporated nonprofit association, or a defense-based development authority by the name searched Internal Revenue Service, or any business in the state of Texas to do business in the state of Texas by the name searched Internal Revenue Service. In testimony whereof I have hereto signed my name officially and caused to be impressed hereon the seal of the state at my office in Austin, Texas on May the 11th of 2020. Ruth R. Hughes, Secretary of State, signed and sealed. They don't have the authority to do business in the state of Texas or any other state, territory of the United States of America. Well, that's easy to prove they're not. No, they're not. They're not a federal agency. They're not listed as a federal agency. They're not listed under the White House Office Inc. as one of the 60,000 plus subsidiary corporations of the White House Office Inc., which is the name of your country right now under Joseph R. Biden as the agent of service. That's exactly what they did. I tell the pizza shop story all the time. I'm going to tell it again. Let's just assume for a minute you guys, as an individual, owns a pizza shop in town. And you've been operating that shop most of your life, 20 years. And one day you decided, I've had enough. I'm going to retire and go fishing. and you send a letter to the Secretary of State dissolving your business. You send a letter to the IRS, to your accountant and your attorney, and you dissolve your business. And you tell them, I'm just closing it down. And you show up, you do that on a Friday, and you show up, you rest over the weekend, you show up on Monday, and you start cleaning out your business. And you start taking all those ingredients and you're getting them ready and you're about ready to throw them in the trash. And it's hot in there, so you kick the door open, you put a brick in it, and you leave the door open, and pretty soon somebody walks in off the street. They walk up to the counter and your menu is still up on the wall. And they look in the back and they say, hey, you in the back, I'd like a, and they place an order. And for just a split second, you think to yourself, well, that's a pretty good way of getting rid of all this crap I'm about ready to throw out, and I can make a profit doing it. I'll just stay open just a little bit longer, and I'll make them some pizzas.
Oh, here we go.
And so you fill their order, you take their cash, you start making them a pizza, and by then, 3 or 4 more people are standing at the counter that walked in and off the street. They're hungry too. So you're starting to get rid of all these ingredients that you were just going to throw in the trash anyway, and you start making them a pizza. And I'll just clean the rest out tomorrow. And the next day you show up, you do the exact same thing, and it just continues to go on, day after day after day. And pretty soon you're making some money, and you look at how much money you put in your wallet, and you go, wow. They don't know I'm in business. I'm not paying any fees to the city, the county, the state, no taxes, no. And look at all this stack of bills I've got in my. I'm just going to do this until, as long as I can get away with it. And you just keep doing it, and you keep doing it, and you keep doing it. And your name is Joseph R. Biden, as agent of service for the pizza shop. And it's now called the White House Office, Inc. That's all that happened, guys. In November of 2020, the United States corporation was bankrupted by President Trump. In July before that, he wrote the Second Declaration of Independence. And he declared the people free and sovereign. And then when he left office, he never gave up the positions of Commander-in-Chief or President of the United States of America. See, there's 3 positions a president takes an oath to. He takes an oath to be the President of the United States of America. He takes an oath to be the Commander-in-Chief of the military, and he takes an oath to be the executive officer of the corporation, which was called the United States when President Trump took office. And those are 3 totally separate positions a president holds if they want to. Do you know how many presidents actually accept? See, they have to accept those other positions too. Do you know how many presidents actually accepted being President of the United States of America? Thank you. Only 19 out of the 46 now who accepted the position as executive of the corporation. President Trump is still the 19th president of the United States of America, and he's still the commander-in-chief. And if you read his executive orders that he passed before he left office, it's the reason the military is in control, and it's the reason the military's always been in control, and he just reaffirmed it. No, you won't. You know, he kept it down from about 9 billion And compromise is 6. Yeah, I get it. Yes, they have. I get it. I get it. Again, he could never be looked at as a dictator, or this plan would not have worked. Had he done everything, he would have been hung by now, by the Democrats. I'll tell you what, there's many presidents who have saved their own lives and many presidents that have been shot. Reagan was shot twice. Then his family was threatened. And then he kind of coasted right there at the end. And Reagan did a lot of great things for the world. Okay? A lot of great things. Well, I'll tell you, right now is proving that. Right now is proving that. McKinley was shot, Kennedy was shot, on and on and on for trying to do the right thing. President Trump has been shot at many times, and the bullets keep missing. The number of attempts on his life has outnumbered all the previous presidents added all together. The number of attempts on his life. Understand, they want him dead. And what is happening right now is the greatest thing that's ever happening. See, people look at lawsuits and indictments a little wrong. They don't look at them like I look at them, and they don't look at them like Trump looks at them. I look at what's happening to Bonnie and myself right now as the great blessing, because I know what to do with it. President Trump right now being indicted, not only is it the greatest mistake the cabal has ever made in indicting him for these classified documents, which now will be put upon the record for all to see. I wonder what's in them. Let me tell you something, guys. He's playing chess at about 8 different levels. He's one of the smartest men I know. And I agree. No man, not you, not me, not him, ever does everything right. We're all foul. I couldn't spit that out if I tried. Thank you. We all are. We're all imperfect men. And we all have to make decisions. And we all have to make sometimes compromises, and sometimes great compromises. And sometimes there's a way to make those compromises that look extremely bad and make them not bad. Such as the news that came out about various, let's say, batches of shots that were nothing more than saline. Sometimes the red states got worse. You know why? Because the red states are the ones attacked by the cabal, the Masons, the Illuminati, and everyone else harder than anything. They've already won the blue states. You look at Oregon, the stuff that's happening in the courts in Texas would never happen in Oregon. And Oregon's the most liberal piece of crap state I've ever been in right now. Fellow Oregonians right there. See, but it had never happened in their courts. But in Texas, the conservatives, they're so idiotic about crime, about protecting the blue line, about there's so many things the Republican Party's wrong on. And believe me, they're the best of two evils by far. A lot of them are cowards, and a lot of them are wrong. And I love it when they call me on the phone, telling Mark and me and asking me for money. because I'm one of the biggest supporters of what's right, but I make sure they know what's right and what's wrong that they're doing. And they always give you this list. What do you feel is important? Is it borders? Is it the... And I look at it and I go, not one fucking thing on there matters. You want me to tell you what matters? How about human trafficking? How about our corruption of our court system, our judicial system? Well, those aren't on the list. Put them on there. That's right. They want you looking over here. That's right. Look at it. Absolutely, and it's all void. Everything they've done is void. Yeah, well, it is. That's the law. See, I go by the law. I know the law very well, and I know what's lawful and what isn't lawful. Look at Bonnie's case. Bonnie's case goes back to 2015. Bonnie sued all the judges in her county. Several of them had to leave their office. She got rid of a dirty sheriff, she got rid of a dirty DA, she got rid of a couple of judges, all during that lawsuit. She's good at that. And she sued them. She sued the county. She won one of the largest judgments the county ever had to pay out. She had to split it between all of her brothers and an attorney that helped her back then. She did almost all the work because the attorney did almost nothing. He just got paid a lot. And then they came after her. And they found her making one little mistake with no intent to commit a crime. No real crime was committed. And they used that to punish her. And she's the only one that's ever been punished in that county for that. They've only arrested 2. They dropped 1 case, left Bonnie. 16 people have been caught doing it that they never even filed charges on the others. Bonnie's the only one. Happened to be right after or right as she was winning. They knew they were losing. So they used it as a way to persecute her. But let's go back a little bit. Say your question one more time for the benefit of everybody. Your comment. The one you just made. Just before I got on that little rampage. He can't remember either. Was it you? About the oaths of office. Thank you. So they didn't use any judge in the county to prosecute Bonnie. They called in a judge from outside the county, one who could practice in any court in the state of Texas and any court in the United States all the way up to the Supreme Court. The guy's a Hall of Fame judge. He's like 80. He's been doing this since birth almost. And I'm not kidding. Because he grew up in that industry. From his dad and his grandfather and everything. There's a whole town named after him in Texas. Okay, it's an old pioneer family of judges. That man retired January 1st of 2010. The last oath of office
Never mind,
he had
comma, I
filed
found it, period, thanks.
expired January of 2011. He was her judge in 2015. In 2015 and 2016, and towards the end of 2016, he tried to recuse himself off of her case. They did not allow him to. The judges, other judges, because he was the only one that could prosecute Bonnie. All the others had conflicts of interest with her because she sued them. Because he knew she shouldn't have been found guilty. Now understand, his last oath of office expired in January 2011. He hasn't had one on file with Secretary of State's office since. And he just sentenced her in 2023 again for the same damn crime. Me and two paralegals have figured out that she has been double jeopardied 7 times in the same case. She's paid the equivalent of 7 sentences. Well, that's an interesting thing. Because I'm going to prove that there is no justice in America at any court, in any level, and that's why I'm in the county court, the appeals court, the Texas Supreme Court, the federal district court, the Fifth Circuit Court, and it's been sent to Alito at the Supreme Court. It's been sent to the military under the Uniform Code of Military Justice to the Provost Marshal General in charge of Texas. It's been sent to the Secretary of State's office. When I get done, there isn't any court left. Do you understand that? Do you understand what I'm doing? You know how hard it is to one man work in 8 courts at the same time, meeting all those deadlines? It's almost impossible for me. And I'm going to do it. And the reason I'm going to do it is going to expose everything for everybody. And what I am not doing, President Trump is, because he's exposing it in the media to everybody. The problem with what he's doing, though, is there's half the people of the nation think he's guilty, don't like him, are against him. I get that. Okay? I'm just telling you the optics and everything. It is not going to be as easy for him. I can't say it's easy for me either, but the way I'm going to do it, it's on the record of the court. And it's on a criminal basis, a felony level, which all the law schools are then going to get mailed a copy. See, I don't care how much it costs me. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to take Johnson County and I'm going to direct mail a generic of her case and ask the people of the county if they think she was guilty of a crime. They're not. I'm not going to put her name in there. But it'll go into every mailbox in the county. And it's going to name the names of the judges and the prosecutors and the sheriffs and jail. We'll see how that goes over. What's that? Uh-huh. I've talked to him a few times on the phone. Yeah. You should have gave them 30 days in which to respond, not 72 hours. No, none of them are going to even be capable of responding in 72 hours. Well, see, the reason I use banking process is because I always believe I'm going to have to take it to a higher level. And if I use banking process at the beginning and I start taking it to a higher level, then it becomes a matter of summary judgment. I can literally go in, file the complaint, file an order for summary judgment, and file the actual order for the judge to sign. Put it in the case, sit back, he'll review it and sign the order. I'll get it in the mail, never have to show up in court. It's done, it's over with, because I followed the law. And I noticed them properly, and they've acquiesced. So 1-page affidavit with the complaint, with the summary judgment, with the order, I'm done. I can do that all in one day. Just go pay the filing fee, hand them the documents, have it put on the docket in this order, and let the judge take care of it. That's called winning before you go in, to win before you go in. It's done. in your remedy. Yeah, it's in your remedy. It's in your order. Now, he has the right to change the order because that's a document that you're just writing to save him some time. It's his document. The rest of them are your documents. You're the creator on them. But that is his document. So you write it as if he wrote it, with a line with his name typed in underneath that line. Save him some time. Where all he's got to do is pick up a pen and go, and it's done. That's how easy you want to make it for him. Okay, go ahead. Oh, it isn't just for Texas. It's in the Federal District Court, the Fifth Circuit Court, and the Supreme Court. He asked if it was going to be just for Texas or if it's going to go nationwide. It's going to go nationwide. See, the key is getting it all done and then just getting it to the law schools. Once the law schools, then they write briefs on it, they do synopsis, they do studies, they do all manner of things. And then it starts to set precedents. 63C of American Jurisprudence 2D, Public Officers and Employees, Section 247. As expressed otherwise, the powers delegated to a public officer are held in trust for the people and are to be exercised in behalf of the government or of all citizens who may need the intervention of the officer. Understand what I just read? Okay, let me go over it again because this is the reason why. First of all, it's an American jurisprudence. What is that? What is jurisprudence? This is the laws judges have to follow. Jurisprudence. Okay? Canon law is another one. On and on and on. There are laws specifically for the judicial. That's their laws. The United States Code is for officers, agents, county commissioners, all those people. Administrative branch. The administrative branch for the most part. It covers all branches, but mostly the administrative branch. American jurisprudence, canon law and stuff, that's just for the judicial. Okay? As expressed otherwise, the powers delegated to a public officer are held in trust for the people. That means they are the trustees. For the people means we are the beneficiaries. That makes sense? When you walk into a courtroom, I don't care if it's traffic court, for a ticket, something minor, that judge is the trustee for you walking in. You are the beneficiary. Everything is a trust matter before the court. Everything. That's the first the judge. Okay, let me put it this way. Every judge wears 3 hats. There's 3 jurisdictions of law: land, air, and water. What is the highest jurisdiction?
Air.
Air. The air is above the land, which is above the water. The very first hat he wears when he walks into a courtroom is a Your Honor hat. That's why it says the Honorable Judge, blah, 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 right up there on his desk. You can't have honor without trust, and you can't have trust without honor. Because to be a fiduciary for the benefit of a beneficiary is the highest form of law there is. Period. Period. So the first job title the judge holds when you walk into the courtroom is your honor hat. He has to administer the trust. Let me tell you how easy this is for him. It takes him a few seconds, and he's out of that jurisdiction. All rise for the Honorable Judge Bob Smith. Judge Bob Smith walks in and says, "Be seated." The man is sitting there with nothing in his hands, and he hasn't put a document on the docket that tells the judge ahead of time that a trust exists. Every court I deal with, I put in a notice of existence of trust. One-page document telling the judge, hold on there a minute, Your Honor, a trust exists. You better examine that first. Okay? Now, there's only two types of trust. There's actually millions. But there's only two types. The rest are subcategories. There's a implied trust, which is a trust that is unwritten. And there's an express trust, which is a trust that is written. And an express trust overrides an implied trust every single time. Why do I say it that way? Because the judge, if the man doesn't walk into the courtroom with an express trust in hand, having put notice to the court that the trust exists, then the judge, when he adjudicates the jurisdiction of the heir, he's going to imply a trust, where he's the executor. The man is the trustee, and the prosecution is the beneficiary. Because it's always a beneficiary in a trust case that brings the case against the trustee. And he's the executor overlooking the trust. And that's what he's going to imply if the man did not walk into the courtroom with his express trust in hand, having put notice to the court that one exists. Now, let's just say he did put notice in and has his express trust in hand. Now, when the judge walks in, he's going to still try and be the executor. The beneficiary is going to try and be the prosecutor, and he's going to assume you're the trustee because the prosecutor brought the case. So now you have to point out, hold on there just a minute, Your Honor. I put in a notice into the court that the trust exists. Here's the express trust right here. Well, let me see it. Oh, Your Honor, you know better. Let's do this right. Trusts are private. This is a private trust. This is an express trust. And as I put in my notice, it clearly states who the trustee is, who the beneficiary is, and who the executor is. And it ain't you. And it ain't Mr. Prosecutor. Now he's got a little bit of a problem. He can't see it. It's private. He has to pull you into his chambers to talk about it privately off the record. He doesn't want to do that because he knows he's going to lose the minute you walk into the chambers. Because the trust tells what's supposed to happen. It's like res judicata. It's a settled matter. The trust lays it out. The judge can't alter, amend, or abolish the trust. Go ahead. Sure. Any trust. So that's his first hat. If a man walks in without anything, and he walks in there naked with no paper in his hands, well then the judge just already rules right here in his head about the jurisdiction of the heir, and he takes that hat off and he puts on his judge hat. That's his second job position. When he puts on his judge hat, he's looking to see if somebody is innocent or guilty, criminal or civil. That's it. If it's criminal, it's just going to go to trial. All he's got to do is arraign you, and it's going to go to trial. But if it's civil, now he can begin judging. The third hat he puts on is his magistrate hat, because now he's looking at the contracts. Everything's about the contracts in admiralty. Is there a contract? Who breached the contract? What is the contract? Your job is to make sure there is no contract, that you didn't breach a contract before you go in. And then your only job is to stand there and say, Your Honor, I'm fully unaware of any contract that could compel me to perform. If there is such a contract, bring it forward and I'll follow it to the full extent of the law. But if they're not, well then when we're done here, just dismiss the case with prejudice, we'll go have tacos. Because admiralty law is all about contract law. The land is common law, common to all mankind. It's property, equity, and rights. It all boils down to who holds superior title and who has superior rights. That's what common law is. It's the jurisdictional land. It's about property rights. If one person has a warranty deed and one person has a grant deed, who has superior title? The guy with the grant deed. Because a warranty, that's fun. Break down the English language. I don't care how you spell T. A warranty. They sold you into this with millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of advertising. Get that warranty on that toaster. Get that warranty on that microwave in case something happens to it. Get that warranty on that VCR, DVD player, radio, television, car. And that way, when you go in to buy your $500,000 house, you'll want a warranty deed. See how they indoctrinated you? Made you think a warranty is a good thing? A warranty is a declaration. When someone rants, they're declaring, they're yelling, they're screaming, they're declaring, they're ranting. It's a declaration of war that you accept. This is acceptance. All right? Very, very important. Warranty. Declaration of the war that you accept. And so they've talked you into a warranty deed. A warranty deed is an abstract. An abstract. What is an abstract? It's a fallacy. It's a fallacy. I'm going to use this table right here as an example. You got a real estate agent, a title agent, an appraiser, a county recorder, you got a tax assessor, you got a cartographer in the county's office, somebody who has changed the description of the property from a lot block to a lot block and tax number, which is SMU. It's all shit made up. Okay, you could have a developer in the room who named the street himself and called the subdivision something, and they used all that along with a United States Postal Service address to re-describe your property. They even changed your name. And as individuals, these people get up every day and they go to work and they're just doing their job, they're feeding their family and they're nice folks. and you'd invite them over for dinner. They might be your next door neighbors. But when I put them all together in the same room, and I explained to them how, as a group, they're a mafia organization who conspired to steal your property on behalf of the state. Do you see, we all go to work with just our blinders on, following policy that they've designed, and we don't. God says, forgive them, for they know not what they do. But as a group, they're a mafia organization. They're no worse than the Sopranos. Do you see what I mean? And then later down the road, they add a sheriff, they add a mortgage company, and they add a judge to steal the property, along with a couple of attorneys, and they just add a few more to their mafia group. Everything they do is a RICO act. Do you understand that? And then they all get together and they all join the Mason group. You see? So they can protect and regulate each other. I'm not kidding. That's the way this shit works. And they bring in the officers and the deputies, the enforcements, with the guys with the guns on the side of the road, in their cruisers with their blue lights, operating in admiralty to enforce their policies. And do you think they know what they're doing? Not for a minute. They're good people. I'd take them to a barbecue, sit on my porch and have a beer with them if I drank, but I don't. Iced tea then. But anyway, they don't know what they're doing either. They're just the brute on the side of the road, the low IQ bullet sponge. The guy putting his life at risk. And believe me, his life is at risk. He's doing a tough job. You got to forgive them, for they know not what they do. If the cabal works effectively, there is no level where they truly know exactly everything. Remember, this is what happens. They go through their entire life like this. They don't see the others. And that's not always true either. A lot of these judges know exactly what they're doing. Yeah, actually, a lot of the police forces are giving psychological testing to make sure of it. Because they don't know what's behind the door. Police officers don't even know there's 2 locker rooms in a building. The only way I know that is because I was hired, my construction company was hired to build 2 different police stations, a sheriff's department and a city police station. One guy with one key who is given an order from the UN at that moment to unlock the door. Seriously doubt it. You won't find it written. Doesn't matter if it's a sheriff or not. He's in an incorporated county. There's only a handful of counties in the entire United States that are constitutional counties that kick the state and the federal government out of their counties. There's a couple in Nevada, actually. There's one in Oregon. There's one in upstate New York. What's that? Almost every police station in this nation has a UN locker room in it, with the UN uniforms in lockers, with the same police officer's name on it that's in his locker room where his duty uniform is. There's 2 rooms that are virtually identical in almost every police station. This nation, on September 7th, 1945, signed the United Nations Treaty. That's the authority. Was it? Was it? Understand, only things exist that you and I, which is the true government of the United States of America that lives inside our hearts, only things that exist that we allow. And we have been allowing it because we didn't know about it. We've been acquiescing to all this shit. And I don't know a better way to put it than that. For our lack of knowledge, we shall be persecuted and destroyed. This is why I'm standing in front of you. Because I can't stand it. It eats at me every day. I wake up in the middle of the night saying, how do I set my people free? God, give me the strength and the courage and protect me, because I get shot at. I wear 2 Abuzz's necklaces around my neck that are bullets, and the only reason I chose 2 and not 3 and not 1 is because I've been shot twice. I've been shot at 4 times. I've been poisoned twice. And I'm still here. So... Furthermore, the view has been expressed that all public officers within whatever branch or whatever level of government, and whatever be their private vocations, are trustees of the people, and accordingly labor under every disability and prohibition imposed by law upon the trustees relative to the making of personal financial gain from a discharge of their trusts. That is, a public officer occupies a fiduciary relationship to the political entity on whose behalf he or she serves and owes a fiduciary duty to the public to protect them. It has been said that the fiduciary responsibilities of a public officer cannot be less than any of those of a private citizen. Why does it say that? Or a private individual? Why does it say that? Because we are the government. We are sovereign. Furthermore, it has been stated that any enterprise undertaken by the public official who tends to weaken public confidence and undermine the sense of security for individual rights is against public policy. Even if they're following policy, if they do that, it weakens and is against public policy. See, remember, there's a hierarchy of laws. There's God's laws and nature's laws, and laws like treaties and constitutions that are, there's superior laws, which is God and nature. There's supreme laws, which are constitutions and treaties. And then there are corporate bylaws. But in corporate bylaws, there's a big hierarchy of laws. Why is there the USC, the CFR, the jurisprudence? Why is there all these different state statutes? Why are there ordinances that are way down here in priority? Why are there all these different things? Because that's a hierarchy of law. It's a hierarchy. And anything down here that disobeys what's above it at any level is void. It has to complement. And the ultimate law is God's laws. The ultimate law is God's laws. So that means there are no laws below it that are not void if they break one of God's laws. You understand how important that is? If we don't know the hierarchy of law, we know nothing. And where did God put borders? Nowhere. See, we got people in here from different countries, of different races. How beautiful is that? How beautiful. Every single one of them, I love. They're God's sons and daughters. That means they're my brothers and sisters. All of them. And I love them all. And what is it in me that says they can't be here? So you want a border with Mexico? Why don't we just fix Mexico so it's not desirable to come to the United States? I don't give a shit if there's a border wall. I don't care if there's a border. In fact, right now, with what I know, the knowledge that I have, Mexico's nothing more than the 14th district of the District of Columbia anyway. And Canada's the 13th district. And right there, it says it is. See, this is why I don't like the Republican Party. It's merely the lesser of two evils. Get rid of the damn parties. Quit voting. You want to vote? Vote with your feet and get off the citizenship. Be a state national. If you can be anything, be that. It has limited diplomatic immunity. Citizen has nothing but civil rights and privileges. That's it. You don't have any rights. And I've seen federal judges look people in the eye and tell them that. Don't bring that Constitution into this courtroom. It doesn't apply to you. And they'll tell that to U.S. citizens in federal court. Don't bring that Bible into the courtroom. I won't have that here. Why? Judges are operating in a black robe under a seance, a summons, calling the dead into court. The whole thing is satanic. The whole damn judicial system is satanic. Back when Rome was ruled by a king, the judges wore white robes. The minute it got ruled by Congress and the Senate, they've switched over to black, and every country has followed. Had that king still been in power, Christ never would have been crucified. Rome was a beautiful place. It was a utopia on earth. There wasn't one single member of society that didn't have everything they needed. Not one. There wasn't a poor or a homeless person unless they chose to be. Not under that king or any kings before him in Rome. It was only when it got turned over to Congress and the Senate, that group of baboons. And then they started persecuting everybody. And then they started ruling with money. And they started ruling with banking. And they started ruling with Roman civil law.
CQV.
And if you don't think our courts operate under Roman civil law today, look at the canons. Roman civil law has not quit. It's called statutes. 50 years of studying history, 35 years of studying the law, 50 years of studying religion, being able to read 1,460 words a minute. That's what it took to put all these pieces together. Understand, I did it for one reason and one reason only, and it wasn't because David Stray hated fishy. So I could save this nation if I can. This is an example of a notice of existence of trust. A little tiny one paragraph, one page document that's on our website, available to anybody. You can download it, you can put your stuff in there, and you can send it over to the court and let them know a trust exists before you walk in the door. It's very important. Keep trying, George Carlin. It's right here. It says soil. It says dirt, this plant, this tree. Hey, I've been all over the world and I love it all. Is it? No. Hey, I don't call him black, I don't call her Asian, I call them brothers and sisters. And when you do that, they're not calling me white. There is no race in this country. Racism in this country is placed there by government and by the media. There is no racism. Once we recognize God, we love each other. I don't care what the color of somebody's skin is. It doesn't matter. I don't see racism. None. Zero. Hey, I love differences in people. Differences. I go to Italy for the architecture. Okay? I go for the food in some countries. Man, if I'm going to Thailand, I'm going to eat like crazy. I love Thai food, see? But I go to different countries of the world for different and beautiful things. Go to Constantinople, Turkey. Go through the beautiful vineyards of Georgia, modern day Georgia, not the United States Georgia, the country of Georgia. Go around the world and see what there is in Ireland and Scotland, Wales. This is the most beautiful world. Japan is gorgeous. I've been all over China. I've been to St. Petersburg, Russia. No. No. There should be invisible borders that we can walk across as we wish. Where we as individuals can walk around the world, and if we want to go live in the Philippines, we can go live in the Philippines. If we want to go live in Costa Rica, we can go spend some time there. In fact, we ought to be moving around in this world. We ought to be moving around all over to learn different cultures, different artwork, different architecture. I think that's a beautiful thing. I wish I could move every 3 years somewhere. No, there's nothing wrong with nations. There's nothing wrong with local governance and something different. In fact, it should be a bottom-up, a bottom-down government. We flipped that by calling it a democracy, mob rule. See? And that pyramid needs turned upside down. Okay? Stick it down on the ground a little bit too and bury that top layer. I've got examples of my God Trust online, on Telegram, on the thumb drive, in the book. Yeah, okay. He said, where can we find elements or examples of trust? And I just used my God Trust as an example. With the God Trust, this is a document that's a couple of pages that I wrote, and it's an attachment of a property list. And I wrote that in 1991 when I owned a trust company. And we did trusts for high net worth individuals. And I wrote that, and I just recently changed it for the first time. It was a perfect document until there was an invention called cryptocurrency. And I had to add that to the property list. Other than that, I think that was one of the most perfect documents I ever wrote. And the reason why is it stood the test of time until recently, and I added cryptocurrency to it. So that just goes with the trust. Sure. What is superior law? God's law, then nature's law. That constitutes superior law. Constitutions and treaties are supreme. Everything else is corporate bylaws. Okay? Man's laws. So if you're going to have a trust, why not base the whole thing off Scripture? That's why I call it a God trust. It's a straight familia, which is family, God trust. It's all based off Scripture. Makes it a little harder to argue with. I'm sorry. Yes, yes, it is an addition to that trust. Remember, land, air, and water, guys. Land, air, and water. What does God command you? Take dominion. He commands that to you. Genesis 1, 26 through 28, He gave it all to you to be the trustee for the benefit of the beneficiaries, the begats. That's your begats too, your kids and your grandkids forever till the end of the earth. In order to do that, how do we do it? How do we protect ourselves in every jurisdiction? You always have to ask yourself that. How do we protect ourselves? Land, air, water. What is the land? Property, which is equity. What does God say? You have remedy in equity. Read the Bible. It's in there lots of times. He talks about equity. Look at your concordance, see what equity means and how many scriptures use it. Okay? Property, equity, and rights. That's land. Air is trust. All things held in trust. Water is contract. It's that simple. So how do you protect yourself in each jurisdiction? This one's easy. You put everything you own in these other jurisdictions, you put them into a trust because that's the highest form of law, right? So you're putting everything in it to protect it. This, you make sure you own yourself. Make sure you own your children. So the doctrine of parents patria doesn't apply. Make sure you own your spouse. Now that sounds a little funny sometimes. I get it. But what I mean by that is you're one with God. If you have to own yourself, you've got to own your spouse. Bonnie is my property, and I have to protect my property. And that's really hard to do when you're up against guys with guns and fences and barbed wire and steel doors. Now, don't think I can't get through barbed wire fences and steel doors. I can. Okay, I'm perfectly capable of doing that. But that's not the right way to do it yet. But it's coming. Understand that. It's coming. There's nothing I want more than us to either own, as Bonnie has said over and over again, every single jail and courthouse in the state of Texas. And then we can take a dozer and build homeless shelters. Take down the fences and the walls and the steel doors. Okay? Because 65% of them don't belong there anyway. That leaves a lot of empty space. Understand that. So make sure you have your superior titles and you know your rights so that you can stand on them. If you don't know what they are, how do you stand on them? What is your foundational cornerstone of all your rights? What is it? It's free agency. It's your right of self-determination. The right to determine your own political status, your own place of inhabitance. You have that right. No government can tell you otherwise. It's up to you to declare. Not them. They just merely define it so that you can follow their code when you tell them. That's why you put it in an affidavit and you send it off to the Secretary of State and you say, hey, buddy, Mr. Blinken, here's who I am. Don't like it? Tough. Put it in the system. You're my public servant. Get it done. And if you don't, we're going to fire you, replace you, alter, reform, or abolish. Or hang. Understand, that's how it is. There are public servants. Like it or not, he works for me if I should instruct him. I'm the damn king. And when he forgets it, it's my job to remind him of it. And if I have to do it through his wallet, through the court, I will. You see? That's how it has to work. And we've got to hold them accountable to that position. Because otherwise, power, money, and greed goes to their head. And they become corrupt. And that's what's happened over the last 200 years. Power, money, and greed. The bond market. Understand everything to do with government, if you want to call it that, is about the bond market. That's it. That's how they get paid. And that's their double set of books. That's the CAFR, what's in the CAFR funds. And you want to have fun as a police officer, go start questioning about the CAFR funds. That's that double set of books, the one that the mafia keeps in the safe that they don't want anybody to see. That's where the billions and billions and billions of dollars are at, enough to fund your county, your city, your state for the next 1,000 years without a single tax dollar being paid in. And it's already sitting there. Because the bond market is 10,000 times larger than the stock market. And it's almost all municipal bond and prison bond funds. And because they made it off you when you got a driver's license and when you registered your car. When you registered your birth and then they ticketed you or they took you to court for something or they charged you with a crime or whatever. They've been bonding and bonding and bonding and bonding and bonding and bonding and bonding you for everything you do. Even if you just went to college and you got a student ID number. They created the bond. And that bond helps fund colleges, which are all government. Every college is government except one. Even the church colleges are government. The reason why is because they became 501c3s. And they decided to register an organization, a religious organization, which never had to be registered. It was already tax exempt, and it was already tax exempt to credit anyone who donated to them before they registered as a 501c3 because they were sold a farce. Go ahead. No, it's a Bluetooth. Hey, wait a minute, I can look you up if you've been vaccinated. Absolutely, it's also attached to a patent. It's attached to a patent, and it's a bond. Somewhere on here I have it. Lots of programs on here. There it is. Start scanning. Right now, within a couple of blocks of where I stand, there's 175 Bluetooths. There are things such as my iPad. Every piece of electronic that's a Bluetooth puts out its own signal that's identifiable. And everything, there's an LE Open Run Pro printer. It's made by Ericsson. There's two Ericsson printers in this building. Must be popular. There's a Galaxy Watch. Who's got a Galaxy Watch on? There's a few of them here. There's 2 or 3, and it's still scanning. It's still coming up with bunches of them. Yeah, there's quite a few printers within a couple of blocks, but there's a whole bunch of unknowns. And every electronic piece of equipment is regulated and must identify its Bluetooth signal. If it is unknown, it's people who have been vaccinated, and I can ping that. Huh? Good. We go to lunch at 1, so we're okay. What's that? Yeah, they're getting more and more of them at the cemetery all the time. But there is probably 100 vaccinated people, approximately, within the radius of my Bluetooth scanner, which is about 2 blocks in every direction. Unless I ping them and it tells me it's something else. Anything that's an electronic has to identify. So every printer, iPhone, laptop, television set, everything is identified here in the 175. There's about 75 identified, approximately 100 that's not. So if I ping it and it still says unknown, that's from your vaccination. You put out a code, and all these new street lights, especially the big ones on the highways that are in a circle and they're a little bit kind of a purplish light, every one of those is reading the Bluetooth signal of everybody that drives by, and it will track you wherever you go. Not only that, you've been drinking bots. If you drink Pepsi or Coke products or Nestle or eat a multitude of different types of food, you've been putting electronic bots in your system that are so small they go through the intestinal wall and into the bloodstream. Then they add graphene oxide. The graphene oxide makes your blood system another wiring harness, like your nervous system. So now you've got a double set of wiring harnesses, which is quite important in this whole scheme of things, because then they can move positive to negative fields next to each other. They can put it down from a 5G tower, change the signal directed at you because they pinpointed your Bluetooth code, and they can cause the bots in your body only, not the guy sitting next to you, but just your body to vibrate causes bots to vibrate. Your white blood cells attack the bots and they clot. And now they just killed you with nothing more than a Bluetooth signal transfer. Yeah. Yeah. They've weaponized the system. This is crap I want to fight against. You think I can do it all by myself? I don't know. I love to see 5G towers burn to the ground. You know, if you... Never mind. I'm on camera. I'm going to get in so much trouble. What's that? It really doesn't matter. You're exactly right. It really doesn't matter. Don't think there's much of a difference between 5G, 4G, 3G, LTE. Any electricity is pretty simple. When electricity was first invented, do you think it was at 60 hertz, 120 volts, 20 amps? No. Do you know why a code requires a building to be built with plugs, especially houses, every so often? Because that's the radius. That plug is literally harming you in your house. 60 hertz is a devil's frequency. You got voltage, amperage, and vibration, hertz. Hertz is a wavelength, vibration, vibratory. Understand, they could have easily made all your lights 12 volt DC that it didn't harm you. But no. What's that? About the what? They're placing the 15-minute cities near where billionaires reside, where the elite reside, because you're going to be there to service them if you're one of the chosen. Exactly. See. Expect a lot of vacancies coming up. There's going to be $1 million houses that are empty because entire families took the jab. And they will die off, and there won't be anyone left to inherit. And they'll be scooped up by those in the know, the judges, the attorneys, or you. Man, go research your laws on adverse possession. Again, don't even worry about all that crap. Don't worry about it. God's going to take care of it all. We have to start making other things happen. There's more important things for us to worry about and do. The things that we're doing in this American State National Movement is the things that are changing the world. And the rest God's going to take care of. And that's one of those minor things I don't even care to think about, because all those apartments they're building, that's pretty close to correct. You think I'm kidding? Well, actually, after I mentioned that yesterday, we had people looking that shit up and showing me this morning. There's so much evidence of it, it's not even funny. No, I'm not going to do that. Gene? You got to speak real loud, because any other noise in the room, you got to understand, I've been around a lot of bullets and explosions. Okay, so other little noises throw me off. It already has. The serious part started yesterday. Now, continue. It already is. That's in November. Okay, God is, first of all. Hell with the sheriffs. Most of them will be gone. Understand that right off the bat. Most of them, in the vast majority of counties are on the West Coast and the East Coast and along the Gulf, along the coastlines. Florida, Louisiana, those won't exist anymore. I'm just saying, it's going to be gone. There's going to be other volcanic activity. There's going to be problems all over. You know what it's going to come down to? Who has been listening to prophecy since 1820, and who's going to survive, and where? And then you, the people that survive, will be in charge. Screw the damn sheriff. He's one guy in one big area that when that happens, here's what's going to happen. Show me where the diesel fuel is. Show me where trucks are going to be moving around. Show me where food is going to be distributed on the shelves. Show me everything. And human beings turn into absolute animals when they have no food, when they have no water. The zombie movies are preparing you for all of that too. The intelligence world has put out something, and they actually use Dallas-Fort Worth as an example because there's 10 million people inside the circle of the Beltway. Dallas-Fort Worth, 10 million. Don't worry about it. It ain't going to survive the water either. It's at 600 feet elevation. It's 150 feet underwater. Understand that. It ain't going to survive, so this doesn't mean much in that respect. But if it did, and all 10 million of those people, there's no diesel, there's no trucks moving around, the store shelves empty in 5 days. Done. It takes 1 to 2 more days for people's cabinets to empty. The hungry will be coming to their neighbor's house for food and water. And they'll be armed. Because it'll be life and death. It always is. 20-mile radius around there takes another 7 days. Another 20 miles around there takes another 5 days. As you move into rural areas, you're getting into bigger and bigger acreages with less and less homes that are much easier to conquer unless those people are prepared to defend their land. This has been in intelligence reports over and over and over again for several years. Telling us it's coming. I'm not trying to scare people. I'm telling you what they're telling me. David Street didn't make this shit up. They're telling me this. And it just keeps going. But their cars won't even be leaving. They'll be on foot by the time they get out here. And they'll be coming for your house, your food storage, your gun and ammo supply. Why? They'll be taking that for sure. They'll be taking your domestic cows and ducks and chickens, I'm telling you. Your eggs right out of the hen house, and then they'll take the hen too. Everything boils down to it. Pretty soon, out here, man, you're just 160 pounds of pure protein to somebody like me who will survive to the end. Every major city will be destroyed. Government says a major city is 500,000 population or more. If you're in certain areas, it doesn't matter how big the city is. It'll be gone. Problem with Florida is the tallest mountain in Florida is a molehill in Oregon. Okay? It's flat and it's sand. And there's coasts on both sides. It's not a place to be. I'm telling you. Just because I love you. I was told not to say nothing at this seminar. And I contemplated not telling you guys any of this. And then I look in your faces and I see how much I love you, and I'm going to tell you everything. I just want to pour my heart out to you. Here is, what's that? What is a cure? There is cures. There is things you can do. There's frequencies that will literally kill the bots. There is chlorine dioxide, which is a miracle drug. It's MMS. Everybody should be on a regimen of MMS, doing it right. First, get rid of your parasites. Fix your gut. Get rid of the mucuses in your gut. I've got a recipe for that. I get 30 emails a day. Half the night I send people recipes. Then fix your gut after you've cleaned it with some good probiotics. Start using Lactobacillus salivarius in your mouth. Build your immune system so things don't affect you. There's a MMS right there. I'll show it as an example. It's part A and part B. Get a glass shot glass. This is how I do it. Get a glass shot glass. Start off slow. Tastes like bleach. Okay, I start off with 3 of each. If it's your very first time, Let them sit about 20 seconds, kind of shake it around a little bit, to mix them. It's part A, part B. Mix it for about 20 seconds. Add an ounce of water so you can get it down fast. As quick as you can. It's going to taste nasty. All right? Work your way up from there. Go to 5 drops each. Do that for a few days. Go to 7. Go to 10. Stop at 10. Most people don't need more than 10. If you got stage 3 or 4 cancer, go to 20. Start at 10. Because this will cure. I can't say that online, they'll come after me. This will help with cancer. This is understand that. People get arrested over this, and they shouldn't be. Most countries that sell it on the grocery store shelves is perfectly safe. It turns to salt after it's done working in your body, which we all need. That's what it turns to. Exactly what he was talking about, okay? Yeah, dream on. And don't. Yeah, there's lots of remedies. Go off grid, go to a 12-volt lighting system. That's a good way. You want to get the best night's sleep you ever had? Right when you're ready to go to bed. You don't need lights, you don't need TV, and you don't need Wi-Fi. Walk over and turn off your main circuit breaker of your house and shut off the power. And tell me how you sleep that night. It'll be the best night's sleep you ever had. Buzz's technology on your breaker box helps a lot. One of those machines running at night helps too. Just turn off your Wi-Fi. Turn off breakers you don't need, especially the one in your bedroom, and go to sleep. All right. Deagle.com. Deagle is a CIA company. Okay? Deagle. It's Beagle with a D. DEAGEL.com. In 2017, they published the predictions for 2025, their forecast for 2025. Okay? In 2017, the currency was the US dollar. The population was 327 million people. The world population was 7.4 billion. The surface area of the United States was 9.6 million square miles. The density was 34 inhabitants per square kilometer. I don't mean miles. 9.6 square kilometers. 34 inhabitants per square kilometer. The gross domestic product was 19 trillion. Per capita, GDP was 59,274. The budget was 6.3 trillion. The military budget was 637 billion. Imports were 2.4 trillion and exports were 1.6 trillion. It's got the world figures as well. I'm not going to read that. The forecast for 2025, the population will be 100 million. It's more than 2/3. The density will be 10 inhabitants per square kilometer. The gross domestic product will drop to 2.4 trillion. the GDP per capita will be 24,561. And the military budget will drop from 637 billion to 32 billion. Is it? It is a forecast because it's looking into the future, but is it? You think they haven't seen the future already? They already have. I have the 1986 Department of Defense final report on time travel. Department of Defense doesn't issue a final report until it has been tested, proven, and it works. All right, is it 1 yet? Lunchtime? Got 15 minutes? All right, I'll run through this real quick then. Checkbook money that's tendered to the borrower has an equal value of legal tender only because its promissory note is sold for legal tender cash. I'll read that again because it was a little noisy and it's important. Checkbook money, that's the money in your bank account, your checkbook, your wallet, is legal tender to the borrower because it has an equal value of legal tender only because the promissory note that goes with it is sold for legal tender cash. So what happens if they don't do that anymore? Then it's worth nothing, right? The bank uses a newly created checkbook money, the fiat currency, to fund the bank loan check they give to the alleged borrower to be repaid to them at interest over time. A promissory note is a negotiable instrument constructed in strict accordance with the Uniform Commercial Code. Debt is discharged upon tender of a promissory note, whether accepted or rejected by the payee, and a payment tendered and refused is paid in full, meaning discharged. And nobody has an obligation to pay in Federal Reserve promissory notes. No one has an obligation to pay in those notes. Now, going to the law. The practice of law cannot be licensed by a state or a state. There's not one single bar member in Florida that has a state of Florida license to practice law. Not one. I had a judge ask me, do you have a state-approved law license? I said, I got the same law license you do. Because you don't have a state-approved law license either. I said, go look at your law license. Go back. I'm sure you got it hanging on the wall in your chambers because you're proud of it. Go look at it. Tell me it's issued by the state of Oregon or the state of Texas. They don't have one. They're only licensed by the bar. The bar is a labor union. It's the British Accreditation Registry. It's under the Crown. It's never been part of America. The American Bar Association is part of the British Bar Association. It was actually started in America by the Communist Party. Abraham Lincoln was our first bar member attorney to hold the president's office. He wasn't allowed to do that according to this Constitution, the right one, because of its 13th Tona Amendment. Because a bar member is an esquire. And an esquire is a title of nobility. So he's got to register under the Foreign Agent Registration Act of Congress, FARA. Do a FOIA request on your attorney. See if he's registered under FARA. Government spends about $5 million a year to keep the FARA office open in Washington, D.C., and nobody's registering. They got people sitting in there playing ping pong. I'm not kidding. And an attorney or a judge, which are attorneys, have to be registered with FAR, or anything they do is null and void. Now, if we could only get law enforcement to go enforce those laws, and we can't, and I'll tell you why. That's exactly right. They won't mess with fellow Masons. See, here, this is why our court system truly is under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and it has been since 1775. But because of the Posse Comitatus Act, they can't get involved in civil matters unless we can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that they are committing crimes of RICO and trafficking and corruption in our judicial. And thanks to President Trump's multiple executive orders stating just that, might just be the reason the military has finally taken action. And a provost marshal general is assigned to each state. And it's going to be beautiful. Started yesterday. Our military is not big enough, guys. It's going to take a while. Understand that. And until then, we got to keep proving it. We got to keep exposing it. We got to make sure every American knows it, so they don't think we're under military occupation and martial law, because we're really not. And we don't have to be. That's the beauty of this whole thing. Patriots have gotten us wrong for a long time. We don't have to be under it. The military's already been in charge of it, and they're allowed to act. They're just not allowed to help you as an individual. In other words, they can't step in and help me or Bonnie. But they sure as hell are supposed to take care of their judicial courts that are committing the crimes. Texas is going to be one of the hardest ones. I'm wondering how they're going to do that, how they're going to clean it up. Because the state of Texas has put the Texas Rangers in charge of the judicial to stop corruption. You know how many judges Texas Rangers has arrested?
Can I call you back in
None. And that's their job.
7 minutes?
It's in their job description.
Thank you.
That's what we're doing. That's why Bonnie's case has already been sent to the Provost Marshal General of Texas. Find out who the Provost Marshal General is in your state and start giving him some data on those that are corrupt. And then watch tanks drive down your street to the courthouse. I don't care anything about that mess. Putin will clean that up. I got full faith in him. He's Trump 2.0. He's one of the best things that's ever happened in this nation. And you know why? His family's one of the 13 families of King Solomon. What's that? guys, you talk back here and I can't hear what he's saying up there. Might be. Somebody might have something on him. Because he wouldn't do it on his own. But bribery is always possible. The Provost Marshal General of the United States Army, the Grand Army of the Republic, was put in place first under the UCMJ in 1775. It preceded the Declaration of Independence and the lead resolution in our Continental Congress and all of the United States government. It was there first. And so was the Navy, and so was the Marines. And so when Q said the military's in control, take it to heart. They are. We just need to get the hell out of the way so nobody looks like a dictator. Do you think? Let me give you a little history really quick. Was Stalin a dictator? He was called a dictator. Wait a minute. How many did he destroy? 20 million people. But who did he destroy? What area of the nation of Russia did he destroy? Right. The Khazarian Jews. Hitler. Was he a dictator? Yes, he was deemed a dictator. He killed how many Jews? You don't know. It's arguable. 2 million, 5 million. Hey, you hear all these numbers, right? Doesn't matter. Who was he going after? The Khazarian Jews that were bankers and doing usury over from Ukraine and doing usury over the German people. And the German people loved him for it. Did he become bad in the end? Of course he did. Because he couldn't tell a Khazarian Jew from a regular Jew. What's the Ukraine war about? The Khazarian Jews. Who's our media? Who's our bankers? What did God do with Israel? He kicked the Jews out of Israel how many times in the Bible? 5 times. Where'd they go? North through Acre, over towards Constantinople, up the Silk Road, through modern-day Georgia, to where? Kyiv, in Ukraine. That's where they settled. God kicked them out of Israel 5 times throughout history. He said, you guys have become mafia. You become bankers. Christ got violent, the most peaceful man in the world, and turned over the money changers. He went home and made whips first. That's premeditated. He went back, flipped their tables over and whipped them and beat them and chased them out the door. And we don't even go into the courthouse with rope. He did. Do you understand that? Who was he after? Who was he after? Who were they? Jews that were kicked out, literally kicked out of Israel. There are Jews and there are Jews. Not all Jews are bad. I know a lot of really good ones. Huh? Thank you. There's your difference. It's 2 separate people. Understand, President Trump couldn't go after the Khazarian Jews. He'd be another Stalin, Hitler. You see what I mean? Couldn't do it. He'd be looked at as a dictator by his own people. A lot of damn patriots would have turned against him with pitchforks. You think that's not part of it? Yeah, it's huge. It's a huge part of the indoctrination. I mean, I love our patriotic people. I came from a patriotic household. I'm a patriot through and through, but our poor patriots don't even know what they're patriotic to. They fly the damn war flag. They make their cars and their homes military installations, and they won't even pick up a gun. They stand there and pledge their allegiance. They don't even know who wrote it. Like Francis Bellamy, who was head of the Communist Party and a teacher. And when our children were first introduced to the Pledge of Allegiance in school, they stood there like this. I got pictures of them. Look in old textbooks prior to 1900. No wonder they burnt those things, trying to hide that.
Lunchtime.
Yeah, I can get really fired up over that subject. All right, let's go to lunch.
Okay, remember to turn in your name badges at the registration table so that we can put you in our drawing